Hello and welcome to Business Matters, the show about people behind businesses that help make Tacoma a great place to live and work. I'm your host, Mike Wark, and on this episode, we'll check out the great flavors of Jonz Catering in their South Tacoma kitchen. And we'll get some great tips on how to improve your company on Tacoma Means Business with Andrew Fry. And today my guest is Ron Geier, owner of Northwest Stage. Welcome, Ron.
Hi.
So I could have gone to any number of events in Tacoma, Seattle, Olympia, great sound, audio, visual, and I would have had you to thank for that experience.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Northwest Stage, that's what you do. Tell us about what your business is.
We're a comprehensive event production company. Our core services are audio visual, which would be the lighting, staging, sound, video for an event. If you go to like a fundraiser and there's pipe and drape behind the stage and video screens on either side, some PowerPoints up, that's the kind of stuff that we do. We have a lot of customers that in Western Washington, and but we also do event production management, where if you come to me and you say, hey, I want to put on a special event, we can help you guide it through the whole process. And so that's
the whole process, including finding a location, figuring out how to promote it, keeping track of your RSVPs, the whole thing.
Yes, we will go ahead and bring our team together. We'll figure out what it is that you need to do to put on your event. We'll come back, tell you, hey, this is what we need to do, and this is what you need to do to move forward, and we'll help put it together. And you know, every event is different, so sometimes that's a really simple process. Sometimes it's a months-long planning and a whole lot of asking questions and getting to the bottom of it. It's like, what do you want to do with your event, and how do we make it look great for you?
So it's a whole range of things, because you can fill the Tacoma Dome, which you've done.
Yes.
Heckhead Center, I saw that Barack Obama visited there, and you did the sound and setup.
Yes, and we just did Bernie Sanders there last month.
Yeah, and you've got Tacoma Schools events, all kinds of things, all sorts of spaces.
Right. We are one of the few companies that will go to where your event needs to happen, and we make sure that it happens at that location.
Oh, I didn't know that was unusual, so that's a specialty.
Yes.
And you do all this out of a warehouse in the Tide Flats?
Yes, we're based out of Tacoma.
Okay, and that means you've got a ton of equipment in a warehouse and a staff of?
We have 8 people who work for us regularly, and then we have an overhire list of 30, and you know, we've had to go beyond that plenty of times, but we have about 8 people who are our core crew.
That go out and do the work. But if you were going into the Tacoma Dome or somewhere in Seattle, the convention center, what are some of the larger crews you've ever had to assemble? We've
had up to 140 or so people on a really large event like the Tacoma Dome or the Oregon Convention Center. We've done work there, and the Heckhead Pavilion, obviously, we often will have 50 or 60 people on an event that size. That takes a fair amount of planning and advance. And you know, we have a contract with the Stagehands Union, so what we'll do is if we need an extra 30 carpenters, we'll call up and say, hey, will you send us 30 carpenters? And we get them. And you know, again, as long as we've planned what we're doing appropriately, it's a really great, they're great labor resources that we can bring in crews to do events.
It's pretty amazing. So you have all the equipment, you have all the connections, you can make things happen. And you've been doing this for how long? We actually formed in late 2004, and so we're, 11 years is where we are. But it really took off about 9 years ago. It started building. We started getting more and more events that way. So it's been, every year we grow a little bit, and that's what matters. That's great.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, how do you get started? I mean, you had an investment and you get started. What was involved with the decision to go out on your own? Because you'd worked in theaters here in town and elsewhere.
Right. I was at the Tacoma Actors Guild for 7 years. My background is actually music composition. I taught a little bit at Pierce College, and I helped develop the recording studios and some of the technology that was going in, and that's where I really learned how the technology works. I didn't expect to utilize that as much as I do now. But then I went to Tacoma Actors Guild to be the resident composer and sound designer, and I did that for 7 seasons. And
well, that must have been great.
It was great, and that taught me a long-term development of a show, because we'd often spend up to a year planning a show out, have a lot of production meetings, talk through how we're going to make things happen, and we would plan a show out, we would put it together, we would build it, and then we would have a season of shows. When I left Tacoma Actors Guild, I went to work at the Broadway Center for the Performing Arts, a Pantages Theater, and I started off as the head sound operator there, and then became the production manager. And that was exactly the opposite. Often we would have no time to put together a show or plan it. It would come in the door, we would throw the show up that day, and then we would load it out that night. So I sort of got to learn the get it in, get it out model from working at the Broadway Center, which was also really useful. So when I left the Broadway Center, I combined those two things and started doing event production, and it works really well because the majority of our events load in and go in a day, or sometimes it's a 2-day, a 1-day load in and show and out on the next day. But it still requires a fair amount of planning to make the event happen really successfully. So it was great to put those two things together.
So you drew on all the skills that you had throughout your past and
Mm-hmm.
went out and started on your own. And it's really interesting. I mean, this is clearly not an easy field to get into and be successful. You have to have a lot of experience to do it well.
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to my crew because we'll develop a show and I'll say this is how we're going to go out and do it, and they make it happen. Anybody who's done events knows they can be really stressful.
Yes.
Things can go wrong. You show up and the room isn't ready, or any number of things have happened. So you have to be able to execute a plan, but you also have to be flexible enough. And the other thing is that you have to work really hard to instill confidence in your clients. They don't care why the doors weren't open or the elevator broke down. That happened to me recently. They still have 500 people coming at 7 o'clock at night, and that event has to be up. And so, you have to be able to work with people and calm them down, so we're going to get this taken care of. Nobody really cares at that moment whose fault it is that the elevator doesn't work. And you don't want to spend a lot of time arguing about why the elevator doesn't work. You just have to figure out how do we get around that, and and then you make it happen. And my crew is excellent. They have worked really hard to make sure that we always do shows well, that we instill a lot of client confidence, and that we get the show up. So.
And you must be good at this. I mean, you must be really good at it. To do this 11 years with the complexity of the events you do, the management of your staff and working with your clients, must be good at that.
I hope I'm good at it. I guess I should ask everybody what they think.
I think the track record shows. One of the things I find really interesting is the program that you do with kids, with youth. And,
yes.
You have a partnership with Tacoma School of the Arts. You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, and right from the beginning, when I started, I started mentoring students. I would work with them. We'd go into the class. They have a technical theater program and they have a recording program. And we will go in and work a little bit with the technology. We'll do some seminars. They'll come down to our shop and see what we're doing. There's School of the Arts has what's called a J term, where they will bring a couple of students and they'll have them follow us around for a month. And we don't utilize them as free labor. We actually, have them come along and we explain what we're doing. We show everybody how we do it. We actually spend some time giving lessons. And then every year we hire 1 or 2 students after they've graduated from high school, and they get a year-long apprenticeship where they're actually paid. It's not an unpaid apprenticeship.
Actually paid a living wage.
They're actually paid a living wage
of all of your people.
Yeah, and that's something I'm a real supporter of. I believe in a living wage and with benefits and a little bit of money into retirement. And it's not the absolute best you can do, but it's something I can do and helps out. And so they'll work with us. They'll learn the ropes. Some of them have gone on to do some really great jobs. The head technician at the Rialto Theater is one of our trainees. There are several, and they work at area theaters, the Fifth Avenue Theater, some other places around.
Something to be proud of.
Yeah. And I am really proud of it, and I'm really glad I have a great partnership. And we also put on School of the Arts. We put on their events, their Outrageous Auction.
Oh, cool.
That's one of the events that we put on. We help them with, there's a camp that all the students do when they come in that has full lighting, sound, and they put on performances. We work really closely with them to help them develop those. And that way the students get hands-on while they're in school, not just the ones that work with us, but all of them get a chance to see how this goes on.
That's really interesting that at the School of the Arts, the job of putting up the auction and all the equipment and lights are part of the educational experience for them that really helps them out.
Absolutely, and we're glad to do it.
So one of the things that I know about how your business got started is, and I think this is a good example for people thinking about, how do you spread the word out about a new business? And I think you were just fortunate that it worked out this way. But talk about the story about that letter you wrote.
Right, and I don't know that I would do this today, but back in 2006 and 2007, I saw that Senator Patty Murray was having a fundraiser that she does every year. It's called the Golden Tennis Shoe Awards, and I actually wrote her office in Washington, D.C. a letter, and I said, you should hire me because you just introduced some legislation that talked about high school mentorship, and you're on the living wage campaigns, and you believe in benefits, and I said, I do all of these things. I'm a small business. I put this into practice, and you absolutely should hire us to do your events. And I mailed it, and about 2 weeks later I got a phone call from one of her staffers who said, can you verify anything in this letter? And I gave John Kettler from the School of the Arts and a couple other phone numbers, and a few days later I got a call from the campaign, and they said, well, we'd like to meet with you. And we met at the site of the convention center. We did a walkthrough, and I said, I can do all this stuff, and they hired us. And from that point, we did that event. We've done it for years. And from that, we did a lot of campaign events for Senator Murray. From that, we ended up doing the Washington State Democrats. They host a holiday party every year. They do an award ceremony, but we've also then transitioned into actually putting on the Washington State Democrats statewide conventions, and we've now done that 3 times, and they do it every couple of years. And so we've transitioned to putting on conventions, and that was great. I don't know that I would write that letter the same way today, but it was
Well, you're a
what I
successful
did.
business person now, and it's an example of how networks can build out and people get started. And
Absolutely.
you didn't have any intention to really build out a network when you wrote that letter, but
No intention, but it worked out great.
and since then you've branched into all different kinds of businesses and built all kinds of clients.
Yes. So we're focusing on developing a lot of corporate clients now, and we do really good work. At least I think we do really good work, and that's something that we can provide a lot of consistency from place to place. So if you do an event at the Tacoma Convention Center, then you go to the Westin Hotel, and then maybe you go to the Spokane Convention Center, you can have a crew that knows what you do, that understands the process of the event, that you know who to ask a question of or call, or if there's a technical glitch, you have that great relationship. So once again, there comes that calm. For example, we do the Washington State Association of Firefighters. They do events in Richland and Spokane and Tacoma and Seattle, Vancouver. And recently we were doing one of their events, and the video went out on one of the 2 screens, which that kind of confused us, and but immediately they understood that we were working on it, that we hadn't just unplugged something and we're ignoring it. We went right to work on it. Turned out that it was the presenter's laptop, and we fixed that.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily for us, and the nice thing was at the end, it wasn't a long, drawn-out debrief about what went wrong with the video. It's like, oh, the laptop went down. Yes, it did, and so we managed to, again, that relationship means that we don't have to spend a lot of time trying to explain something that, once again, we've developed that bond of trust with people on their event, that they accept that we're doing the very best. And that's really great. And that really helps out.
And that's what you have to offer.
Yes.
Is that trust that you build with and repeat clients, and you continue to reach out to new clients.
Yes.
Looking for corporations and so forth. They have event planners, I would imagine.
Yeah, and we work with a lot of event planners. Again, they'll bring something to us, and we'll figure out what parts we're able to provide that we can do. Since we do everything in-house, the lighting, the sound, the audio, we will do post-production. We'll film something and give people their video for their website. We'll even edit it all the way, or we'll just give them the raw footage and they can send it to another place to have it edited. We're great with working with what people need to have done to make their event happen. We're happy to do as much or as little. There are some sound companies we work with where we'll do the staging and the lighting and the video, and they'll do the sound, and we don't go in to steal their clients. We're like, hey, we're here to help support the event, and
collaborative.
Collaborative. Yeah. That's really
mutually
important.
beneficial partnerships.
Absolutely.
And relationships sound like a key.
That's very important.
Yeah. This has been fascinating. You get a behind-the-scenes look into how events work. Some of those big events I've been to, the sound's always there. It always sounds great, and now I know why. Someone like you makes it happen.
Well, yeah, thanks. And again, I have to say, it's building a great team. And back to the School of the Arts, a lot of our staff were SCOTA graduates who then apprenticed with us, and then they stayed on to the staff. So about half of our staff are actually SCOTA graduates.
Local people.
Yeah, and it's great. Yeah.
It's wonderful. I would love to hear more stories and about more events, but we're out of time. It's been great, Ron, to have you as a guest on our show today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned after this. We'll come back for Tacoma Means Business when Andrew Fry will share us more tips on how to grow your business. Keeping your business on an even keel can be full of challenges, no matter what stage of development your business may be in. Andrew Fry provides a few suggestions to help you succeed on Tacoma Means Business.
If you want to consider yourself an entrepreneur, don't get caught in the trap that building a business means that you're building a business for life. Along with the idea that there are exit strategies to any business, there's this idea that some businesses are temporary. You actually set them up for a certain period of time. They come, they exist, they go away, and they're successful in their own right. Now, some ways you might look at this is like productions. If you're going to do something like a play or a movie, you understand that the business behind it has a cycle. You're going to go out into your market, you're going to provide the product, and then you're going to get the revenues from it. in a particular period of time that you plan for. A good example, of course, is like seasonal businesses. Whether you're erecting an ice skating rink during the middle of the winter or you're opening up a water park just for the summer, there are businesses that have that seasonal quality, and therefore you prepare. You prepare for the launch of the business, for the operation of the business, and then the closing down of the business, even if it's on an annual basis. So keep that in mind, because it might open up yourself to more ideas for companies that you might want to try out. For instance, here's one of my favorites. It's a very small one, and I'm not even certain how successful they were, but I loved it. It's called Cup of Corn. And I believe this came out when there was a surplus of corn in the nation. All this corn, what are we going to do with it? Well, this one group opened up a food spot, and the food spot sold 16-ounce cups of corn, 12-ounce cups of corn, 8-ounce cups of corn. That's what they sold. That's what they were called. I love corn. So I'd go in there and I would buy a cup of corn. When I thought about it, I don't believe you're going to open up a franchise or a restaurant chain selling cups of corn, but I loved it when it was there and I was sad when it went away. Now, also, in terms of success, companies that exist for a short period of time and go away don't necessarily mean that they failed. If anything, they did exactly what they were supposed to do in that time. I had a friend recently who had talked about a restaurant that was closing after 65 years. Now, was that a sad thing? A lot of people, I'm not happy to hear that. That makes me sad. Well, the truth of it is, that was a family restaurant that had been there for decades, 65 years, and handed from one generation to the other, and was incredibly successful. The reason it was closing is because, well, the people who had then been the next generation didn't necessarily want to run a restaurant business. It still was a fantastic restaurant, still had decades of celebrations, of great meals, of family operations, and in my opinion, that was a very successful company, whether it was open or closed. So if you think you have a business idea, but then you stop yourself and say, wait a minute, that business is only going to be around for a couple of years, maybe that's the perfect time for that business to be around. And that means that that's something that you might want to actually try. Just be certain you prepare for it, you operate it, and then you close it when the time is right.
Thanks, Andrew. For more ways to help grow your business, check out Tacoma's Community and Economic Development Program at TacomaMeansBusiness.com. When Business Matters returns, we'll visit a South Tacoma catering company that offers everything from elegant entrees to blazing barbecue in the spotlight. Today in the Spotlight, it's catering done with a twist at Jonz Catering in Tacoma.
Welcome to Jonz Catering. I'm David Dackley, owner and executive chef.
David and the Jonz Catering crew specialize in a smorgasbord of food service support. Their products include catering, cafe management, event planning, and a robust choice of food for any occasion.
We provide food service for any special event you might be having in your life. Whether it's a wedding or a big corporate party, even a giant family gathering anytime, we are there to provide food and service for large celebrations.
Memories are a major part of Jonz Catering operations.
Most of our customers will only be our customers a few times. Unlike a restaurant where people will go back again and again and again, we're there for these very specific events in their lives. And we're going to provide the food and the service to make sure that that very special day is absolutely perfect for you.
Small business innovation comes from out-of-the-box thinking, and David did just that with his food service team.
Yes, we have different aspects of our business that we do. We do provide a mobile bar service called the Thirst Responder.
Recently, he bought an old rescue rig and tweaked it out into a mobile bar system he calls the Thirst Responder. It's quite an eye-catcher at many special events.
We also do cafe management. So Tacoma Public Utilities has an employee cafeteria. We manage that cafeteria for Tacoma Public Utilities. We have a whole staff there, manager and about 9 employees, and they provide 350 to 500 meals a day for the employees of Tacoma Public Utilities. So in addition to the catering and doing all those special events, we also run those cafes, do a mobile bar service, and we frequently get requests for unique cuisines. They want a Hawaiian barbecue. They want Thai food. We can provide for them the best Hawaiian barbecue they've ever had because we have these wide-ranging experiences as chefs. We work together to provide really, really unique cuisine.
Profit margins in the food service industry are quite narrow. David says his staff is conscious about costs while providing high-quality service.
I'm surrounded by amazing people who really, really help keep all that stuff tied together. When you've got that many arms out there providing various services, multiple events every day, cafes running, you have to be surrounded by people who have those same ideas in mind, that they're watching their costs, they're watching the quality, they're making sure that we really perform great as a company.
The staff of Jonz Catering come from a diversity of educational and training backgrounds.
We have about 20 people full-time, and then in addition to that, and this varies all the time based on season, we'll have somewhere between 30 and 40 part-time as well.
David says he's in this business because he likes to cook. He's been in this business for a long time, but he says the best part is watching his customers have a good time.
There's a gratification in this job that you don't get many other places. You get to see and touch each customer and watch them walk away saying, that was great food, that was great service. You get to touch people every single day.
Well, it's true that fun is a cornerstone of his business. With the fast-paced service, culinary creativity, and the diverse client base, David takes the business very seriously.
They're only going to get to use us 1 or 2 times in their life for these big celebrations in their life. And so we take that very seriously. Each thing that goes out the door, we want to make sure that's the highest quality food that they can possibly get.
The most important ingredient for the future of Jonz Catering is leadership.
I think right now what our goal has been, we've sort of built in a new layer of management over the last 6 months, and what that's going to allow us to do is really grow the volume of our events business right now. In addition to that, we are actively engaged in finding other cafe opportunities, and with the first responder is going to be a big part of our business moving forward.
As for the location of Jonz Catering, David says he and his wife did their homework. They lived in Seattle, but went south and found there's a need for their style of catering business right here in Tacoma.
It took us 1 trip here to go and drive around and say, this is a really cool town. And there's a place for us in this market. They need another caterer in this market. And so literally moved here specifically to start this business. So we were excited about coming to Tacoma. Tacoma's a great place to be, and it's really paid off both in terms of the growth of our business, and we've really developed some amazing relationships that I don't think we would have developed in Seattle. It's just a closer-knit community. It's a really great place to do business.
That's it for Business Matters. Join me next time for more insights into the Tacoma business scene. See you then.